I had a feeling that, we were due for a game like this, and I picked 45-17. I and that, during the pregame show, like I made it very clear. I was like, man, Stanford, because I had watched all their games. They're an extremely scrappy football team. Like they're not overly talented. They don't do a lot of things well, but the things that they do well, they do really well, and they will do it over and over and over again. And that's what you saw. And they just found a way to kind of hang around. Defensively, they have a really good defensive line. Um, and obviously, their run game, they do a lot of creative stuff with Ashton Daniels in their backs, and they gave Clemson fits for the better part of this football game, and they moved the ball consistently. So, but happy with the win, a 26-point win. You cover the spread. You can't really complain too much, and it feels good to say that, man, you won by 26 points, and you feel like you didn't really play that well. So, yeah. Happy with the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, anytime your team gets a win, specifically when it's a score to the tune of 40-14, 26-point victory for the Tigers in Death Valley tonight. It did not look pretty at all for portions of the game. There were times where the offense really struggled and got bogged down. There were times where the defense really struggled, particularly in their run fits. Daniels gave them fits all night in the QB run game. They could not leverage it properly. They kept letting him break contain. They kept letting him get explosive run after explosive run. Tackling at times for the defense was poor. But at the end of the day, you get a 26-point victory. Your offense got going in the second half a lot better than they did in the first half. And, we'll get into some of the good, some of the bad, and all of that stuff. But just overarching thoughts, Clemson probably went out there and played, a C minus game at best tonight, and still came away with a 40-14 victory. So with that said, I think that's encouraging as a Clemson fan. We were talking backstage before we came on the show tonight, and that's a game that Clemson loses a year ago. It's a game that Clemson a year ago would have found a way to lose because that was just kind of their MO last year. That's kind of how they operated, especially when they came out slow and they couldn't quite get going. They did come out and score a quick touchdown thanks to Stanford kind of making a boneheaded decision, a head-scratching decision, if you will, by going for it in their own territory on the first possession of the game. I didn't think that made very much sense at all, but again, I guess they were trying to get it going early to try to stave off that Clemson offense attack, and it worked for the most part in the first half and until Clemson kind of broke it open in the second half. But, just overarching thoughts of the game, Clemson didn't play particularly well for portions of the game. Like I said, C to C minus type performance. But again, still come away with a 26-point victory. And I think you can be happy with that. And then we'll get into the growth and the improvements and all the stuff that has to be made between now and the time that we take on the Florida State Seminoles next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, to your point about, this team and just the growth that they've made from last season, like, when things were not, they started off the game extremely well, obviously with the K Klubnik. When you get a stop, and then K Klubnik, finishes that first drive with a 55. It's not a 55, however long the actual run was, on a 3rd and 10, scramble for a touchdown. You felt pretty good. You're like, oh man, things are going to continue to go as they were, and didn't work out that way. Stanford was, they got stops. There was a lot of disjointedness within the offense, but I think the most encouraging thing was that, unlike last year when things, when they had a bad drive and things weren't working and the other team was giving a lot of resistance, they like from a play calling perspective, from a mentality standpoint, they completely, shrunk in their shell and they played timid. And that was what the hallmark of the Clemson offense was last year.
Yep.
But this year it's been it's like we're gonna keep swinging and we're gonna
Yeah.
keep doing what we're gonna keep doing our thing and until it works. And that's what they did. They kept taking shots. They kept trusting Cade. He had a bad interception in this game. He didn't let it phase him, and he didn't let it hurt his play. He had a couple of times where his receivers let him down, more than a couple of times really. But they kept chipping away. They said, we know that we trust our preparation. Guys just got to start making plays, and they just kept swinging, and they ultimately started hitting on those plays, and that's how you get the score that you did. So I mean, that's the encouraging thing about games like this, is even when you don't play particularly well by your standards, but then by where you want to eventually be, you're still winning conference games against Power 4 opponents by 4 scores actually. And yeah, I mean, you can't really complain too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't complain too much. I see Lee Harden in the chat. We're not dunking on Clemson. We're not burying Clemson. We're not being unfair to them in any way. But at the end of the day, if you watched specifically that first half, Clemson did not play well. Georgia's winning now. By the way, so
hey, fine with me.
Nobody saw that coming.
Oh my God! Oh my! Touchdown, Bama!
75-yard touchdown reception. Yeah, Bama.
Lord, man.
Wow. Okay, but to Lee's point, look, we're not trying to bury Clemson, but we're realistic on this channel. We're not just going to sit here and only focus on the things that went well in the victory today. Yes, we will talk about the things that they did well, and we'll lead with that. But then we're going to get into some of the things that need improvement, because at the end of the day, if Clemson's going to go where they want to go, which at this point is an ACC championship game, hopefully winning that and then seeing what happens in a 12-team playoff, you're going to be challenged in more ways than Stanford was able to challenge you tonight. And there were things that were done that aren't going to bode well for you in the future.